What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Twink Revolution. I'm Sam.
I'm Gian, and we come to you from occupied San Francisco.
Yeah, we're in quarantine.
We are. We're in full lockdown. We are not allowed to leave the house.
Yeah, it's good, but it's okay. We're here to bring you online stimulation while you rot alone in your apartments or at your parents' house hearing counter-revolutionary topics.
Yeah, no, it's really a big imposition. It's like, please stay inside, watch porn, play video games, chat on the internet with strangers, shitpost on Twitter. It's just being a teenager all over again. This is like my summers as a teenager.
Our goal is to become like the person in the movie Contagion, the one that has like Gwyneth Paltrow die, and just like talk about like drugs that don't actually cure the virus.
Here I am. I'm taking my dose of forsythia. It's gonna cure me. It is. If I post tomorrow, you'll know that it worked.
I wonder what Greta Thunberg's doing, because your voice kind of reminded me of that. Is she on lockdown? Because there's
stupid bitches won't come over and visit me. I don't know why you won't come fuck me in this quarantine zone. You've stolen my horniness.
She's getting off to it. She's like, oh yes, no one's doing anything to hurt the planet.
This is delicious collapse porn to me.
Her eco-fascism comes out.
Yeah.
She has the aesthetic.
Actually, the population is too large for the planet to sustain, and we must eliminate at least 20% of the population. I am very glad that the ICUs are overwhelmed. Fuck Greta. Jesus Christ. Calm it down, bitch.
Yeah, you're no longer allowed on this podcast, you stupid bitch.
Greta, go home. Sail home, you weird bitch.
Okay. She's not the only like C-class celebrity who's like in the news. You know, RuPaul Charles, I think their last name is. RuPaul Charles from your favorite shitty show called RuPaul's
Drag Race.
And DragCon turns out to have a fracking empire.
That would be a fun place to be quarantined in some sense.
A fracking empire?
60,000 hectare fracking empire in Wyoming. Who cares? It's still too much.
It's bigger than 12 national parks.
Can't believe actually about whether it's 60,000 hectares or acres. It's too much.
But it was an NPR interview, and they were asked about, what do you do if you're a 60,000 acre ranch? Because you don't seem like the person that actually leaves like Atlanta or like LA. And they're like, oh, well, 21st century ranching is actually just land management.
Oh.
So we lease our mineral rights to oil companies, and we sell our water to oil companies, and our grazing rights to cattle companies.
We're queering resource extraction. Fuck off. Oh, that's dark. And I mean, and I say that in the backdrop of like, you know, the bodies piling up in the street and all ability to go outside being removed from us. And still, this is the darkest shit I've heard this week.
Yeah.
Fucking RuPaul. Who is still watching Drag Race?
Everyone.
It's canceled. No, stop it. Stop giving him money. He doesn't need it. He has a fucking fracking empire.
I can't cancel him, though. Then I'm a hypocrite because I say cancel culture is bad.
No, I'm not trying to cancel. I'm just saying there's just ignore. This is just a passive sort of like stop watching this bullshit. It's not good entertainment.
You want guillotine culture?
No. I'm saying I want
circumcision culture.
I want Big Brother season 27 culture where nobody's watching.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter anymore. Like it's still happening. It can still happen. They can broadcast it to exactly nobody.
I didn't realize he was that wealthy.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, he's been a thing for a long time. His early successes came, I think, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, he was part of like, what was that New York crew called? Where like they were like super camp.
The Club Kids or whatever.
The Club Kids, yeah. Have you ever seen the interviews of them? It's just horrible.
Well, I've seen the movie. Was it Party Monster or something? With Macaulay Culkin playing what's his name? Richie Saint. I can't remember. I can't remember their names.
They did an interview though with all of them, and it's like, are like the like most bourgeois rich kids, just like, oh, I'm wearing makeup and high heels, and we're just partying all the time, doing all this ecstasy. And I'm like, You all
And then they
suck.
all started doing meth, and then they started chopping each other up in the bathtub and shit.
Oh yeah, that happened, right? Someone
Yeah,
murdered someone.
that's the Party Monster is telling the story, the real story of them, where the sort of one of the most prominent club kids ended up like murdering his meth dealer in the bathtub or some shit, and like it's great.
So at least the racism in this case didn't pin it on the gay black man.
It's true.
We were woke at that point.
Well, speaking of other people who are in jail, still, I think, right, the second, but not for long.
I think they're out now.
Chelsea Manning is free or about to be free.
Yeah, she had her court hearing, which she was not there for because I think the day before she tried to commit suicide again. And the judge released her from prison, but still held the $250,000 plus of like contempt of court fees. But luckily, actually someone I know from my libertarian days who's really good friends with Chelsea Manning had a fundraiser in like a day. They raised like $266,000 to pay off the fees. So she's out of debt in one day.
No, I think we all owe her a debt in terms of providing the most direct evidence of the horrors of U.S. empire. So I hope she's well.
Yeah.
I want good things for Chelsea Manning.
So that's your one good piece of news, and then the rest is just going to be about the topic we haven't brought up really. I'm coming out
my corona.
Oh, I thought it was my coming out video.
Oh,
I'm
fuck
coming
off.
out as sapiosexual.
Yeah, definitely fuck off. We're shoving you out of the quarantine zone.
No, it's Corona.
Yeah.
Like we said, we're in lockdown because we're in San Francisco Bay Area. It's a free week. Stay in place. Home.
Yes, at least 21 days. April 7th, we are live. We can start raw dogging it again.
Yeah.
Face to face with no protection. But yeah, no. Until then, we're basically not allowed to leave our homes.
It's so fucking boring, but it's okay. I'm working on some projects for Twink Rev.
Sam's gonna do a thing. He's gonna release some good content in the meantime.
Stay tuned. It has to do with gays and socialism.
Yeah, we'll release those as a fun little side series because we assume the rest of you will end up locked in your homes at some point and you'll have nothing to do except listen to us.
Yeah.
And so, extra content, courtesy of Sam.
You're welcome.
I still have to work because I have one of those sort of bullshit jobs which you can do from home.
Yeah, my job got shut down, so I have nothing to do.
Yeah. So that's fine. I'm earning the money to pay for the panic buying resources, buying 800 rolls of toilet paper. I didn't do that. I did buy several bottles of vodka because I've been making a limoncello at home. We have a lemon tree.
Yeah, we're drinking limoncello right now.
Yeah, we're drinking homemade limoncello, and it's really good. And that was sort of inspired by the most heartwarming thing to come out of the mass death and illness is the videos of Italian balcony parties.
Oh yeah, I like the one where everyone was like singing "Bitch Better Have My Money" by Rihanna on her balconies.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this, so Italy's been locked down for weeks now, and they all live in cute museum towns with narrow cobblestone streets and sort of lots of little balconies and apartments, and so Italy, many parts of Italy have a tradition of the sort of promenading, where at about sort of between 5 and 8 p.m. you go out and you are sort of seen, you socialize, you stroll around and you see and you be seen and you interact, I don't know, find attractive strangers to bring back for after the promenading, whatever. But anyway, so I think passeggiata, something. Anyway, so this tradition has sort of been replaced because no one can leave their homes with going out on your balcony and sort of doing things like singing or playing a musical instrument or just sort of hanging on your balcony and being cool.
I like the one also with I think it's the wife playing like a shitty recorder and the husband is like coming up and like smashing out of her hands and she fucking like beats the shit out of him.
Yeah, no, it's great. So anyway, I've been feeling very inspired by Italian balcony parties. I think they're the human ideal and the socialist ideal I aspire to. Yeah.
But But I guess we can start from the beginning because we actually haven't talked about coronavirus really at all. So as you all know, it's made in a CIA laboratory by the U.S. and it's used to
It's
inflate.
making frogs gay.
Yeah. No, actually, I did look in. I discovered an article of a conspiracy theory around coronavirus and how it actually started in the U.S.
Cool.
and that it was actually planted in China by the U.S. It's from a Canadian conspiracy theorist who was like big into like 9/11 conspiracies and stuff like that.
So a reliable source.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess it sort of shit got out of hand fast.
Yeah.
From like a situation where we were all pretty like happy to be like, oh well,
It's
yeah,
the
China.
flannel.
Well, no, but also like, okay, China's having a weird disease thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the case, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean it's just like we're kind of conditioned to be like, oh, SARS or weird flus or whatever. Like, okay, shit's happening somewhere else. Like whatever.
I mean, it's 1 billion people in a country. Like, of course, statistically, more diseases will emerge there than like, I don't know, an island of like 1,000 people. You know what I mean? Like, there's more people around close quarters with like wildlife and stuff.
Yeah, it's a thing that's gonna happen more often.
Yeah.
And yeah, given that was sort of the backdrop against which we started, it didn't seem much cause for concern. And then the first cases started turning up in the U.S. and like with Ebola, say,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, yeah, okay, sure, some cases turning up here, and that's fine. Yeah, whatever. And then suddenly it was like, oh, community spread, and your entire health system will collapse.
Yeah.
Um,
These are all in countries with like universal healthcare systems and like centralized infrastructure. Like Italy has a single payer healthcare system, and they had to like start rationing like who gets help, basically kicking out those who are like already compromised health wise or like the oldest because there's not enough doctors.
yeah, I mean, the only sort of intervention that is meaningful right now is to put you on a ventilator. And if you have a finite number of ventilators, which everyone does, then yeah, you start triaging in the classic way, which always sounds very callous.
Yeah.
In the postmortem, you're like, well, wait, you chose the sexy hot person you want to bang over the old decrepit person with 1,100 underlying diseases. How dare you? That's someone's family. And I mean, it's true. It's incredibly callous. But this is sort of why you don't, as it turns out, want to overwhelm your healthcare system.
Yeah. Well, also like in the Biden Bernie debate that happened yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah. Was it
Biden
ever?
brought up how, oh, well, Italy's falling apart and they have single payer health care. But I pointed out today, under a capitalist regime where neoliberalism still had its austerity measures implemented with like most of Europe,
Yeah.
and like I think it's like 4 doctors per thousand, while like Cuba has like 8 doctors per 1,000 people, and they're actually sending doctors.
Well, actually, they haven't eliminated the value form, so it's not true socialism.
Also, it's really stupid because I looked into what China's was, and it's like 1 point something per thousand, and China's already like massively dropped the rates of contagion, and now is sending like millions of masks to like every country in Africa has like supplies from China.
Yeah, I mean,
Italy.
China has a huge amount of productive capacity, which turns out to be quite important to dealing with the challenges humanity might face. It sort of defies belief at some level that we've sort of given up the game so early. We are effectively, we are refusing aid from other countries, but we could probably use it at this point.
Yeah.
We're not in a great spot.
The Cuban healthcare system has the drug interferon B, which is like some like old like respiratory drug.
Interferons are antiviral agents. But it's a class of antiviral agents.
It's been shown to help fight COVID-19, and we can't get it because we still are in place in the embargo.
It's racist to call it COVID-19.
We actually just passed more sanctions on Iran and I think China today as well.
Fantastic. I'm glad we're really engaged in a trade war at a time when most people are either sort of cloistered at home safely, or they are out on the front lines working precarity jobs like delivery driving for Amazon, or God forbid a healthcare worker or something. The worst thing you could be right now. Yeah, it's a little dire. It's
Yeah.
easy to feel dispirited by it all. Although, like, one of the interesting things is that the supply chain's still working so well.
Mm-hmm.
I find that very impressive. And it kind of it only to recall a conversation we had last week with Ashley Frawley about socialist planning, and like, turns out the free market is not the thing supplying us with goods right now. It's these incredible like top down planned distribution methods that are still keeping our supermarkets filled. Sure, like a price mechanism for like what we end up paying for them at the point of sale is sure, that's the free market. But in terms of like the actual wonders of being like able to provision this huge amount of capacity to deliver more goods and more non-perishables and things like that, this is a feat of central planning that is unmatched by the feeble free market. I mean, the free market is just delivering you like $1,000 hand sanitizer right now. That's what you can get on the free market.
Well, actually, I think it was, what the fuck was it? Cuomo? Was he the one that said we're gonna have prison labor create a bunch of hand sanitizer?
See, definitely that's the Stalinist school of free markets.
But I mean, I think the most staggering thing was during Biden-Bernie debate, which was centrally focused on coronavirus breakout, which makes sense. It's a pandemic.
Sure, it's pretty scary.
They were like, "Oh, what consequences should China have?" And they also brought up Castro and like their government being an evil dictatorship.
Yeah.
Despite like the next day, Cuba literally letting a British vessel like dock because they have coronavirus and do like World Health Organization standard like handling the situation and sending them back to their country for medical care.
Well, and this was a cruise ship that's been basically circling for like 5 days or something, basically looking for any country that would let them dock.
Yeah.
And Cuba, to their eternal credit, right, were like, oh yeah, we can handle this.
Yeah.
Cuba, famous for medical training, right? Medical schools in Cuba is a common thing. They have a lot of doctors and have historically sent doctors all over the world in times of crisis.
Well, it's like the Biden kept bringing up Ebola as like how he handled it. But when you look at the situation, like the vast majority of medical supplies and doctors sent to West Africa were all from Cuba. So he's taking like there was like what 4 cases of Ebola in the U.S.
And most of them arrived in like a CDC isolation bubble on a military jet.
But we did like jack shit while like Cuba, this evil dictatorship, sent massive medical supplies. We're still bombing Iraq during coronavirus. Like,
so I think we've I've been happy to sort of be a little coy about it, but I think we officially stan Cuba now. We're going to be Cuba, like Castro regime apologists from now on.
Yeah,
I am.
I stan China.
We also actually have quite a lot of Havana Club rum in the house from Cuba. Well, so like, I mean, it's keeping us supplied.
Also, China's handling the situation, no matter how you feel about it, you just can't deny it saved us weeks of like it just spreading faster. Like they completely shut down entire regions and put people in isolation while like I'll touch on that later. But
what about our freedom?
but also
it's fascinating to watch those numbers, right, between the provinces, where the original province, I think it's Guangdong province.
Yeah.
Guangdong, maybe
Wuhan.
Pronunciation. Well, yeah, the province in which Wuhan is located had those incredible spike of cases and things like that, and it rose and rose and rose, and the death rate rose and rose and rose. It's novel coronavirus, right? We'd never seen this one before.
Mm-hmm.
The surrounding provinces, as in every other province of China, had like a handful of cases, which were quickly put under control, quickly dealt with. Travel restrictions and things like that worked really well.
They built a hospital in like 12 days from scratch.
Wasn't the first one 10 days and the next one like the the bigger one.
Yeah,
that
there was
came through
two of
was
them.
like 4 days later or something. Yeah.
And
So
then,
yeah, incredible feats.
but the U.S. media was like trying to make it sound like one of them collapsed when it was like some private like hotel that was used for coronavirus patients that felt collapsed, and then they actually arrested the owner of it for poorly maintaining the building.
I mean, the hotels in the U.S. never collapse.
Yeah.
Was it that hotel on the Hard Rock Cafe on Bourbon Street, pretty much in New Orleans? It's literally been collapsed for 3 months and has like dead people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
it's like,
never happens in the U.S.
no, it's just
Oh, in the authoritarian regimes.
unrelenting, like Cold War propaganda to make this all about like China bad, America good. Well, China's literally being a rock star to a lot of the world. Like yesterday, Serbia's president just declared basically how like solidarity in the EU is complete bullshit, and the only one he wants help from is Xi Jinping because they're actually helping other countries. And the next day,
Italy asked for help from the EU and got nothing.
yeah. Well, Serbia was like, "Oh, we give you all the money when you ask, but now we don't get anything when we need it." And the next day, Xi Jinping sent the medical supplies and doctors like he did to Italy, he did to Spain, he did
All
to
you have to do is bend the knee.
Afghanistan.
Just ask Daddy Xi Jinping for help, and it will arrive. So this is us on behalf of the United States begging, please, China, please help us.
Well, we need something because we're fucked. Like,
yeah,
the response is not good. Like, until like it's still going on. Like, I think I just saw Atlanta's beaches. There's massive spring break parties happening there still. Like,
go home, you sluts.
Like China, when they told people to go home, everyone has stayed home. Here, it's like everyone's still going out. People in Tennessee were in massive bars. Bourbon Street in New Orleans had to have police sent and tell them to go home because it's a health hazard. They're going to kill people.
Morons posting videos themselves making out with people in San Francisco bars last night.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. Like it's I mean, I understand being irrationally horny, but that's a level above.
Just go masturbate.
Yeah. Or I don't know, quarantine yourself with 7 like-minded friends and just don't come out for 3 weeks. Well, you can entertain yourselves. It's fine.
Also, the narrative for a while was like, oh, it's only impacting old people. But then we found out much later that most of the virus is spreading from non-symptomatic people. So these people were just literally spreading viruses. Like Ohio's National Health Service claims there's possibly up to 100,000 cases in the state, when like the surveys on the charts show less than 100.
Like 80 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, are there 100,000 people in Ohio?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Yeah, I know it's kind of horrifying, and I think it's worth taking it seriously. Not to the degree that like there's an overreaction, right, to any time of stress or crisis, which is the like disaster capitalism model, where it's like put up with anything, do anything.
Yeah.
This one's kind of not that, right? Nobody's actually asking you to do much except like reduce the number of contacts you have with people.
Just stay home.
For a little while. Like just for a little while. It's not for long.
Yeah.
And it sucks. Economically speaking, it sucks for a lot of people, and that's why, the political pressure is mounting to do something about it.
I mean, when you know that basically the Vegas Strip is completely shut down, and SNL and Bill Maher are shutting down, it's a true crisis.
Oh, so there is a silver lining.
Well, not the Vegas part.
No, I mean, I'm distraught about that, but it's okay. I wasn't able to travel there anyway.
But
yeah, SNL and Bill Maher show going off, and the Hamilton, the production Hamilton in San Francisco had to shut down. Oh no!
Oh no!
1776. I'm not Hamilton anymore.
Yeah, but also it's been funny seeing how the U.S. plays out compared to like other capitalist nations that are like of the Western persuasion. I mean, Norway's University of Science and Technology literally called out for their students to come back from poorly developed health service countries, and they mentioned the United States specifically.
Yes, if you're in the USA, they're saying the healthcare system is not sufficient.
Yeah.
New Zealand just sent out, the New Zealand Foreign Ministry just sent out travel guidance suggesting all New Zealand citizens currently traveling overseas come home.
Are you going home?
I am not. I'm staying put. I'm a dual citizen, so I'm.
That's true.
Of the countries of which I hold citizenship, Italy's totally fucked. The USA probably fucked. New Zealand doing very well right now, but
you have time to choose.
Yeah, the reason they were saying that, it was not so much like woe is you, it's that the airlines are basically shutting down.
Oh.
There's going to be so few flights to get to New Zealand for the next few months that they're like, well, if you want to get back, do it now.
Yeah.
Which I don't. I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine. I've got a good supply of homemade limoncello. The wine cellar is well stocked. I'm good.
So I think there is some hope of like it kind of showing how shitty our system was to begin with.
What do you mean? Best healthcare in the world?
Well, I just mean like in the West in general, like Spain overnight like nationalized all private hospitals and workers. And in like France, under Macron, who's like a neoliberal shill, suspended all gas, electricity, heating, water, and rent bills. And I know the US is trying to do a lot of these things as well. Not nationalizing, but like suspending some like rent and stuff. But it basically shows like our economy is able to do all of these things. They just don't want to do it for like the poors.
Yeah, I mean, for the US, it is worth talking about the poors.
Yeah.
Only because, like, as I mentioned, I have a bullshit job that can be done from home, and so I've been working from home for 2 weeks basically. They give us the option. I was like, cool, I'll go stay at home. Your job didn't allow you to do that for a while until they were basically forced to shut down.
Yeah.
And there are many whose jobs are still dragging their heels on this one, saying, like, no, like keep coming to work. I was talking to a friend earlier who works for a tech company and is forced to go to work every day. And also the worst part is this was a tech company not in the Bay Area that had a shuttle service. So there's at least sort of transit that was sort of reliable. And they're like, well, we told all the other employees to go home, but you're a contract worker, so you have to keep coming. And we're shutting down the shuttle service, so you can take the public transit.
Well,
Cool?
It's funny seeing how the Republicans are doing better. They're to the left of like the Democrat Party right now in proposals. Like, I think you said Warren's daily allowance or monthly allowance free bowl is like $250. Well, Kamala's like $500.
Yep.
And then Mitt Romney is $1,000.
$1,000.
And then Bernie Sanders is like $2,000.
Bernie said $2,000 during a live stream today. Although somebody just messaged me on Twitter saying that AOC was promising being better.
Yeah.
That's good. Ineffectual. Yeah. So I mean, there's a kind of an auction going on for our love and affection, which I like that. I like to be competed over. I like people to tell me I'm pretty and tell me how much money they'll pay me.
They're still doing fucking litmus tests. I mean, Nancy Pelosi got a bunch of praise for like her bill that she like led, and it like only like covers like 20% of the working class, because if it's companies over 500 employees, they're not covered, and that's like everyone at McDonald's, everyone at Walmart, everyone at KFC,
Lockheed Martin,
like all these,
and also less than 50 employees were exempted as well, I think.
I don't know. I didn't look at that.
Yeah,
but...
no. So it was basically this weird carve out where if you're between 50 and 500 employees, you have to pay some kind of token amount of like sick leave, basically.
Yeah.
And otherwise, like, you're shit out of luck. And yeah, the Republicans are doing amazing on this. They're running way to the left of the Democrats, except for Bernard Sanders.
Yeah.
And it's appalling.
They're also calling out their bluff. I mean, the way they're handling the financial collapse of coronavirus, they just funneled in like the $1.5 trillion in like loans from the Federal Reserve, and it helped for like 30 minutes the economy. It's like,
yeah, it's sort of loans. It's a weird instrument they use.
Yeah,
It's one part of the government basically buying security sold by another part of the government.
But also, like, someone pointed out that 1.5 trillion could have paid for universal childcare, universal university, affordable housing, like for the whole year, and it would still have some. Like, it basically just showed like we have the money to pay for all of it. We're just
Oh yeah, nobody ever asks where the money comes from for that stuff.
yeah.
And yes, like people like to sort of well actually in terms of the specifics of the financial instruments involved, but it does show the idea that like when we need liquidity, we can get it. We can do whatever the fuck we want. With our like with our economy, we don't really we're not really bounded by the laws of time or space. Money is a fiction.
Well, so people keep pointing out like, oh, well, actually, do you want the economy to fully collapse? But when we point out that when we did this in the 2008 crisis, most of the like auto manufacturers and banks never paid back $1. It actually became even more consolidated.
What do you mean? Joe Biden told me that they paid it back with interest.
But they gave money to like buy up more of the properties that like went down because of the economic collapse.
Well, I mean, it's sort of interesting to look at like the airlines. I think I believe it's Delta that has basically spent all their profits for the last 14 years on stock buybacks. And so you think about these airlines now in deep trouble.
Yeah.
And they talk about a big, I think it's a $50 billion bailout package for airlines. Great. Like all these airlines have done for the last 10 years is pay out profits.
Yeah.
And now we're going to do what? Save them? Like, okay, I guess so. And yes, it's true that the workers of these airlines, because of the way our economy is configured, are in a really bad state. They have no health care without the employer. They have no retirement without the employer. They have no fucking house or food without the employer. But people like to say, well, that's a good reason to save the employer, not that's a good reason to fix the fucking circumstances, like fix the labor relation.
Yeah, I mean, I know like for like California at least, one of the first things they tried to pass was like rent freezes for like small and medium sized businesses. I think that we should be utilizing what's kind of like Spain did and nationalizing these assets. I mean, they didn't do it because they were collapsing, but like letting them fall apart and then buy them up when they're cheap is a good model for workers, because once they're somewhat centrally controlled, we're not going to worry about, like, this is the issue with the American economy is when the coronavirus impacted the country, we had to worry about evictions and like utilities and stuff versus like just actually focusing on the disease itself. I think it's one of the things that allowed places like Cuba or like China to address it faster, because in most cases they are still state controlled to a certain extent or state run.
Even soft social democracies like sort of Scandinavia
Totally.
or Australia, New Zealand have been able to sort of extend a more flexible policy of like the government is configured as a thing there to take care of people in exceptional circumstances, and these circumstances are they're instruments of state.
Yeah.
There's institutions, right? There's no institutions here. They're talking about just like cutting checks to every American or some bullshit right now. It's like, what? Like, who's even going to print those? We don't have a way to do this.
Yeah. Well, so like someone's revealed that like Trump a few months ago like talked about or did cut the like pandemic team from like the CDC. And it's like, turns out austerity is not very good for when you're dealing with like a pandemic that's going to kill off a lot of people, primarily like those who are already struggling from like shitty social security funding and like improper services for like housing and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it's the sort of the disaster capitalism parts of these, right? Which is to say, shit's kind of bad, but like it will get better again.
Totally.
And there's a whole crew that every time these sorts of crises occur are very well configured to make profit from it. Like there'll be record profits from this.
Yeah.
And if you sort of think of it as a straightforward thing of like, right now, there's a huge number of people who rely on, say, like tips or contract workers, whatever it is, right? People who don't have a sort of a regular income who are completely fucked. and they will never see that money again. Whereas there's a set of bankers, right, who have basically been placing bets on the market and can configure a bunch of financial instruments such that whenever the market does whatever it's going to do, because the government's going to intervene to make sure it does it, they will profit to an absolutely obscene degree.
Yeah. I don't think it'll change things though. I think this is definitely heightened something where for the last 4 years it's already been like a boom in like at least some sort of like social consciousness about the shittiness of like capitalism and our economic system, that I think it'll make people even more upset. I mean, we already saw polling of like Medicare for All support just like skyrocketing among all demographics. And you see, I mean, countries like Brazil, which is run by Bolsonaro, their health minister just called for, we actually want to bring back the Cuban doctors that we expelled for rural parts of the country. I mean,
once again, we stand Cuba and its doctors.
The contradictions are so heightened that we're seeing like, these countries we're told that are so like broken down and ineffective are actually the ones doing the best and helping out other countries that are completely suffering under the boot of like profit first and capital interest. That's like anyone who's watching the news or like paying attention is like, actually this doesn't make any sense. Like it's the complete opposite of what we're being told.
I feel like we should, if anybody's listened this far into the episode, us from our lockdown shelter in place studio, it is worth sort of addressing some of the more outlandish sort of conspiracy theories about it, right? Because it's it is easy for people to be like, like this is fake. It's just the flu.
Ron Paul, I just saw, was claiming it's a hoax, like how 9/11 was used to consolidate power by the state, and that's what coronavirus is. And it's just like, at least it's like,
well, I mean, the problem is that like that's sort of true, but it doesn't mean the virus itself doesn't require a rather marked response.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Like,
so I mean, we're in isolation for 3 weeks. The shock troopers and the military personnel in hazmat gear have only turned up to our house a few times. It's been really nice. The FEMA death camps are running well, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
The death panels.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Sarah Palin started that rumor, right? The death panels.
Yes, it was a talking point from the Sarah Palin VP debate, and she was talking about because this is when Obamacare was going to have a public option.
Yeah,
talking about death panels, and death panels as a talking point pretty much scared them off a public option.
And this is a little off topic, but I love that we just like drew her up from the trenches and just brought her back into like the media stream, making her like an extremely viral figure on The Masked Singer, where she's saying "Baby got back."
I think she's going to be Biden's VP pick. That's my shitty fan theory.
I think there's like a 50% chance of that being it. Because he literally committed to a woman.
He said it was going to be a woman.
It won't be Kamala. It won't be her.
No, because he said a black woman for Supreme Court. And so he would not have passed up the opportunity for that sort of cheap identity signifier if he was going to pick a black woman for his VP. He said he's committing to picking a woman. And I think, and he'd also previously said he would consider a Republican for his VP. Because he's about reaching around the aisle or whatever, giving good old reach around to the American people.
I kind of hope he actually chooses her as his VP if he's the nominee. Because think of how big of a shit show it is. It's like this decrepit, like senile man and Sarah Palin.
You betcha. I hope it's even more just insane than that. Like it's 2020. Anything goes now. I hope that Ted Cruz comes out as a trans woman. And then it's Ted Cruz.
We know Biden's a black woman.
Yes. What's the? Oh God, it was
Condoleezza.
No. Donna Brazile said.
He was like, "We're gonna have a black on black conversation."
Let's have a black on black conversation.
No, he means him between him.
Yeah, he meant himself. To be clear, and this was told in glowingly positive terms, and nobody called her on it for telling a story and said, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Well, so like everyone got mad about Rachel Dolezal, and I'm like, at least Rachel Dolezal like pretended to like help or like seemed to help the black
She was putting
community.
the effort in.
Like Joe Biden just locked them all up and was like, actually, we're gonna bomb brown countries and destroy the economy for them.
Yeah, Joe Biden's like, let's have a black on black crime discussion.
Oh my God.
It's okay. I'm consoling myself at this point. And it will not necessarily be a popular position, but I on the fact that he will lose.
Yeah.
It is not going to be a popular position. Certain to say, I actually think Trump and Pence, for all their clownery, are doing an okay job in their response to this specific crisis. It's not necessarily the internationalist response you'd want. It's not a socialist response you might want. But in terms of in the logic of the market, right? They're kind of doing the things you would hope. They're they're doing as much as you could hope for, and they're not really trying to means test, which is the thing that the Democrats can't stop doing.
Yeah.
Is they're like, we think there should be coronavirus testing for everyone who received a Pell Grant and started an community, a small business in a disadvantaged community in the last 3 years, and like they can't stop doing it, and that's Nancy Pelosi's doing it, like Kamala's doing it, like Warren's doing it. It's just insane. They cannot not means test shit. They have to do it. It's something deep in their soul.
I saw a funny tweet from Anna from Red Scare, and I'm gonna paraphrase. I don't remember what exactly, but she's like Donald Trump is the stupidest president ever if he doesn't utilize this pandemic to just like pass massive like progressive reforms, just like completely fuck over the Democrats, like, which I feel like they're kind of doing. Like they're not passing massive reforms, like they're doing it better than the Democrats.
They're running on a populist like message, which I mean, whether you think they're sincere about it or not is a totally legitimate question. But the point is, the Democrats will not, even in the service of getting elected, try to run on a populist message. Biden kind of, during the Bernie Biden debate the other night, kept trying to do a sort of like, well, look, I support prison abolition as well. He would just sort of take anything Bernie said, right, and say, yeah, no, I like that too. But that was sort of still a weak commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And on something like Medicare for All, where it's quite unambiguous, he still starts going, well, yeah, but how are you going to pay for it? And we don't really, we're going to do this expanded Obamacare, Biden care.
Well, some university thing was like, families under $125,000 get free college education. And he was like, same as Bernie, and Bernie never was like, actually, just for everyone. It's not means tested. And that was a huge loss just right there.
Bernie did horribly in that debate.
He did really bad.
I hated every second of that.
Yeah.
There was a couple good moments where Bernie like went in on Biden for just kind of lying about shit, but it was not like, there was still no great distinction being drawn between the two of them, and Bernie felt like he was sort of on the back foot the whole time.
Yeah.
The moderators were being shitheads, but that like you can't cry foul in this case. We know that's the case.
And seeing the polls today, which I mean, we won't know what they fully are yet.
Well, no, we've seen the number of states called.
Biden's already winning.
Bad. It's bad. And it's very bad.
Plus, there's also like a bunch of like issues going on with like voting going on during a pandemic in 3 different states, and many polling stations being shut down or like not getting like the proper equipment to even function, and that's totally okay to Democratic Party. I don't think it's meaningful to actually ever run again in a Democratic Party. Like it's a lost cause. It's useless.
Yeah, it's done. It's an instrument for the preservation of capital and the sort of donor base of the Republican Party. Sorry, of the Democratic Party. And I mean both. That's the problem. They're both the same fucking party.
Like the issue is, I think people are gonna take the wrong message and be like, oh, it was the system that fought against it. It's like, sure, but it's like you're not gonna change it. Like they're gonna keep trying to run in a Democratic establishment and keep losing. Like AOC was like a marginal case when the vast majority lose and are still losing.
Well, and to the extent that AOC's victory, right, was a symbolic one.
Yes.
It's not clear what power, sort of we the left, and I mean that sincerely, won through the election of AOC.
Nothing.
We want a moral victory, perhaps, if
Yeah.
the case was made that there's a sort of populist message to be made. But like that and $5 buys you a Starbucks in coffee infested with coronavirus.
Also, did you see she was like refusing to like continue doing events for the Bernie
That was a
thing?
little drummed up. She did
Yeah.
plenty. She did a lot. No, I think that was a bit of a manufactured story.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, she put it this way, like I'm sure they asked her to do 20,000 events, and she said, "I'll do a few,"
Yeah.
and that's reasonable. She has a job to do.
But she has been doing pretty, like, compared to like the other people like Ihan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, she was still like backing like Warren in like a soft kind of way, while like the other two
She's been
did.
doing the whole she's been doing that sort of apology for Warren thing constantly.
She'll be the new version of like a Nancy Pelosi. I have zero doubts about that.
She will grow into that role certainly.
Yeah.
As she takes more and more political power, she will be able to wield that power sort of in defense of a status quo that hasn't existed for 20 years. It's when your politics are effectively aesthetic, then yeah, you can get away with that, right? Because she can trade on the like I was a bartender thing for the next 10 years.
She was part of a tech startup.
Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. She can trade on the fact that she is in fact, tended a bar.
Yeah.
For 10 years, and then after that, she can talk about being sort of marginalized within Congress.
Mm-hmm.
That rhetoric will sell for another 10 years. And then 10 years after that, she can talk about how she survived coronavirus and how hard that was for her. And like there you go. There's a beautiful 30-year career from like the House to the Senate. And yeah, great. You two can become sort of Nancy Pelosi or something.
No, the quotations left is just showing to be an utter failure. But I think there's hope within the working class under this crisis that they're no longer tolerating.
Well, they certainly know to vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the Mothers for Housing thing
It's so canceled.
in Oakland has spread to other cities where they're literally just taking over government-owned housing that's not being provided to like homeless people in LA and stuff like that. Like people are no longer like people are waking up in a way they should wake up.
Yeah, I'm not persuaded. I mean, I think no. I think
like as an example.
I think that specific example is incredibly positive, and I do hope people keep doing that. The problem is that the contradictions that are sort of heightened on people have never precipitated the conditions for revolution in this country, and has been predicted so many times. I think it was our friend Philip J. Mooney.
Yeah.
Made the observation that it took, was it like. I can't even paraphrase it properly.
It was like World War.
It took like two world wars,
the recession.
Greatest stock market crash ever, and maybe like something else to just get to the sort of tepid reforms of FDR.
Yeah.
And that's very true, right? I mean, it's a country that in which the structure has sort of ossified in a really effective way.
Yeah.
We don't have many attacks on the structure of power here.
I also have a lot of hope that the geopolitical like power dynamics will greatly shift over this after showing who helped out who. Like I think the EU and the US are looking really bad to a lot of the world because we're not helping them in a way like we should as like the world leader. But like countries that were so long touted as like the bad ones are like sending all the help they can, and like now countries are like pleading like come help us. Like these like when Serbia's president says the EU is not helping us and there's never was actually solidarity, like that says a lot in like global geopolitics.
President Xi Jinping, please come rescue us. We're gonna do Twink Revolution China edition really soon. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have the best Chinese gay Marxist podcast on the market.
Hey, that might do well actually.
I think so. No, we might need to brush up on some language skills, but I'm down for this. I think you're kind of right. I think a geopolitical realignment is more likely at this point, as a vector for sort of change than electoralism.
Totally.
And I don't mean that in any sort of sneering way. I think we were right to try. We were correct to invest our hopes in this sort of once in a generation candidate. But it's a doomed effort at this point.
Yeah.
There's no path anymore, and you can feel very sour and very bitter about the forces stacked against the Bernie campaign, both just out and out cheating, but also the kind of the media slant that has always been there.
The PMC angle.
The Warren wrecker angle.
Yeah.
Like Warren running a campaign to basically just to wreck the Bernie campaign. And it's become clearer and clearer that was the purpose of that campaign. There's nothing else to say about Warren's candidacy. What is her legacy? It was to scuttle the Bernie campaign. And it has been said that sort of the moment she started running as a major force, Bernie's time was over. It was over then.
Literally. There's the graph that What's Left sent us. Like literally, once she started, it was done. It was over.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't say that he didn't raise enough money.
Yeah,
he raised a shitload of money, right? And so like our kind of basic got to get money out of politics kind of argument doesn't hold up here. This is a purely political question of whether that's a mode that can actually structurally change anything. And it turns out that the political apparatus in this country is well inoculated against insurgent candidates. And you saw that right in the moment when everyone else dropped out and supported Biden. That they know how to pull together for a win. The right wing of the party, as it were, knows how to win.
And also, I feel like everyone's like, oh, see, people don't want this, but just watch. I bet like last year, the number one candidate for winning will be no one voting. Last year, more people didn't vote for anyone than who voted for both parties combined.
Oh yeah, political apathy will be the winner on the day. and I mean, you should be heartened by the fact that Bernie's defeat will come as a 45%, to 55% kind of decision.
Yeah.
For a lot of people who are Democratic primary voters, who are a weird bunch anyway. But the kind of the imagined demographic shifts or the imagined youth wave, you can't depend on that. You have to go back to what the actual base of what is the base of left power in this country? It's the white working class, and with all their accompanied problems, as we euphemistically say, right? The fact that it means you can't run on an agenda that's going to please Warren voters.
Yeah.
Warren voters are going to call you racist, and they're going to call you a fascist, and they're going to say you're not centering bodies and voices and spaces properly, and you have to tell them to go fuck themselves.
This is the
They're
issue.
wreckers.
People are going to just turn around and do what they did last time and be like, it was the olds and it was the rural white people.
Yeah, people did too many racisms.
Like, honestly, the people who care the most about this racial obsession are probably the most racist of the bunch. Like, people who are working, and sure, there's some weird interpersonal racism, but a lot of them don't care. Or it's
And I don't use racism as an example, as I know you do, right? Where to say you cannot run a campaign that will or sorry, not even a campaign. Campaigns are over. We're done with those.
Canceled.
You cannot run a political program that is going to please the kinds of people who write breathless opinion pieces about centering voices and spaces, or about Bernie's inability to connect with Black people or something. You can't pander to these people because you'll never please them. And whatever it is you do, and I don't want to make the reductionist argument that Bernie's defeat came because he went to ID poll. It's not true. But you have to say that something about his campaign between 2016 and 2020 came unhinged from the base of support that mattered, and he started picking up support essentially among PMC weirdos.
Yeah.
And started losing support among people who are kind of crossover Trump voters, effectively.
It's not the working people who aren't voting's fault. It's the political campaign's fault. Like, the people already know what they want. It's up for the campaign to properly address those people. And in many ways, they weren't addressed at all, especially now because it was so targeted towards these PMC people.
Right.
Like,
Who, to be clear, right, turned out for Warren in droves and managed to get her like 4 delegates or some shit.
like, where's all the like?
There's no
was
support.
there was someone who it was like someone posted like, oh, they should show this kind of ad if they really want to win, and it was like showing like rural like Idaho and like
Matt
farms
Orff
and like
something.
and like factories and shit like that. And it's like that's not what they were showing. It was like universities and like all these groups were like, we even have the luxury to go to university. Like people who are at the very bottom can't even send their children to college. They're working like third shift jobs. Like,
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think the policies were wrong. The
No.
policies were the right ones. It's the messaging. You saw it in that Biden Bernie debate. It kind of to put it into really so stark, sharp contrast. The fact that Bernie would never quite go in all the way and make the kind of family values, like I'm here for you and your family, you and yours things. He kind of kept making the nerdy debate that appeals to the weird PMC wonks who inhabited his campaign.
well, there was no family talk.
No, that's what I mean. And so that's what I'm saying, where Biden could come off and say, like, I am here, look at me, I'm the folksy good guy here for you and yours, and I'm here to restore American values. And Bernie's all like, well, but you actually downvoted the Hyde Amendment twice, 17 times, and my rating was 96%. It was just like, this is the shit that appeals to people who use a spreadsheet to plan their sex life.
Well, so
And it's just depressing.
Biden was able to say things that looked bad to Bernie, like what was the gun one? Like, I don't know, like he was able to say
the
certain
Brady
things
bill,
too.
yeah.
And it's like,
Right, these tit
don't
for
play
tat
this
shit.
game. Just like, don't be like, oh, focus on the now and like what you're gonna offer someone. Like,
Totally.
this minuscule, like, oh, well, they voted this way, which leaves out so much context. Like, oh, people vote on things because they're massive like package deals. Like,
Right.
it's not like.
And even the format, I mean, the fact that we're talking about the debate, I mean, debates don't fucking matter. They're not, they're for nerds.
Yeah.
But the fact that the sort of Bernie messaging, even in that format, falls flat, and it fell flat for me, and I'm like part of that shitty fucking PMC class, right? Like, I mean, like I'm a committed class trader, but like I certainly, these sort of PMC arguments don't leave me completely cold. I know how to parse them at least.
Mm-hmm.
And I was left completely cold by Bernie's performance there.
And his foreign policy was horrendous. Like, it was.
Well,
it was just
he let himself get baited, and he fell into every trap.
just say, like, he should just say what he believes. Like, I think
Yeah,
that
he
would.
should say, President Xi Jinping, please rescue us.
He didn't bring up the Contras. Like, they were
No,
like,
well, that would have been even more alienating. But to the extent that like the fact that these attacks work means you're talking to the wrong crowd.
yeah,
Like, put it this way, Biden's line of, well, Bernie's support for, Cuba and the Sandinistas or whatever, he's talking to like,
PMCs.
10,000. No, that in that line, he's talking to like 10,000 weird multimillionaire Cuban exiles in Florida.
Yeah,
Fine. I mean, you got to rise to that occasion, I guess. But no, the problem is that the rest of it is all this sort of like legislative wonkery driven by the Warren, the critique of Bernie versus Warren, right? Or sorry, of Bernie, yeah, was that Warren, was this wonkish, detail-oriented. She used to rolled up her sleeves and could get into the detail of policy. And so you sort of see the Bernie campaign as being reactionary in that regard, reacting to that challenge
yeah,
with a kind of like nothing libidinal. Bernie, we like Bernie because he fucks. Like, he's like, here's what I'm going to do for you and your family. Here's how your life will be different. And we saw none of that. What we've seen is a reduction to, I have a plan. Like, I have a plan for that. Horrible.
Also, Warren's still releasing plans
Fuck
like the
off,
coronavirus,
Warren.
and
Nobody cares.
it makes me think like, I know you're joking about like Sarah Palin, but I think Warren is running up for like the Biden VP.
I think so.
Why else
Yeah.
would you release plans about something when you're already dropped out?
I mean, she's a United States senator, but like the point being, her plans are
It's
worth
on our
fucking
presidential
nothing.
website.
Yeah, of course.
And then he literally says when he brings up his like education thing, he's like, "Oh, I talked to Warren 2 days ago." like when this person Warren won't endorse anyone yet. So it's like, what
Well,
are
yeah,
you
it's all
doing?
wink and nudge, but I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, the takeaways from all this is Elizabeth Warren's political campaign must be ended,
Also,
and I
listen
mean,
to
like her political career must be ended.
yeah. Also, never doubt us again because we were critical from the start.
I mean, I personally on this one was just really repeating Amy Therese lines. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. No, I mean, that line of that she was a sort of a really actually a progressive who's just more pragmatic
Yeah.
than Bernie. Never be taken in by that again.
No.
I've told the story before on the podcast, but I'll do it again.
Yeah.
And it's what I'm going to explain is why all of you who were taken in by the shit must keep a portrait of Elizabeth Warren on your wall for the rest of your lives. It's when Gore Vidal was talking about, asked why he had a portrait of JFK on his wall for many decades after JFK's death. He said there wasn't for any great affection for the man. It was as a reminder to never get fooled again. And you should wear your blood and teeth tattoo on your skull as a your eternal shame, or your weird Holocaust tattoo of her campaign's particular flavor of weird baby shit green.
So basically, in conclusion, electoralism's dead. China will save us all, and stock up on vodka to make limoncello at home. And that is our episode. Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.